Peter at Retrofret in Brooklyn, New York. And one of the questions we get asked here the most by people who come to the showroom is, what is that thing? Pointing to these guitars I have around me. These are harp guitars, and they're a 19th century concept. The idea was to extend the bass range of the guitar. So say you're playing a D chord there, you get a little D note underneath, you get a little C. The idea was for people who were playing fingerstyle in what was sort of a semi-classical style, that they just have a little extended range on the instrument. And these are really a German concept. This one actually was made in Russia, but it was made by a German designer named Zimmermann, who set up a factory in Russia. And a quirk of this one is it has 7 play strings, because that was the way Russian guitars were set up at the time. But this is an instrument that wouldn't have been seen much in America. Now, this one here, this was made in New York for a wholesaler and retailer named Bruno, C. Bruno and Sons, downtown. And the most unusual thing about this is it's a 12-string guitar with harp strings underneath, which is very unusual. It's actually the only one of its type I've ever seen. It was called the Model 1900, so that's probably about when they came out with it. And actually, you don't even need the harp strings. It's just a good sounding 12-string without even having these present. But this is a pretty obscure model. It does have a little fingerboard here, but you were not meant to try to play these strings. They were just meant to be low sub-bass notes. And one of the most famous makers to make a harp guitar was Stella. Because this is essentially, it's a Stella 12-string, but 6 of the strings are not in the most convenient spot. But this one has a full 6 sub-bass strings on it, which are tuned to something very obscure at the moment, but you get the basic idea. This one actually has a fingerboard, so we've had people come in and play fretless bass on it, which wasn't the idea, but actually the rule book for these was thrown out about 1915, 1920, so you can still get away with it. But this was made in Jersey City, New Jersey, by Oscar Schmidt and Company. And they made some very famous 12 strings. This is one of their more obscure 12 strings. But another also famous harp guitar maker was Lyon and Healy in Chicago, who made the Washburn guitars. This is a particularly beautiful grand concert size harp guitar with the American Conservatory brand. And this is a particularly finely made instrument, and it has a smaller neck here. You can't really play on it, but you could try. And the most interesting part about this is it has an aluminum headpiece up here. And they actually called it a Contra bass guitar with supplementary aluminum headpiece, which is probably a lot to write out in the order sheet. So most people just call it the Lyon and Healy harp guitar. But it's a very nice sounding guitar. Actually works well with steel strings, which some of the earlier ones don't. But that leads us into the harp guitar that still makes guitar players' pulses race. That's a Dyer Symphony harp guitar. And this is simply one of the best sounding acoustic guitars we've ever heard. All of these are particularly beautiful instruments. These are made by the Larson Brothers in Chicago for Dyer Brothers. And the design was by a gentleman named Chris Knutson. And he invented a whole family of harp guitars in the late 19th century. His workmanship was a little iffy, and he only produced them one at a time, so the Larson Brothers in Chicago got the contract to produce them for Dyer Brothers. And these, to this day, are considered the finest harp guitars ever made, and if you see a modern harp guitar, it's often a copy of these. Michael Hedges used to play these in the 1980s, and he did all sorts of crazy harmonics on the bass strings. But they're essentially just meant to play like that. Extend your thumb, get an extra note, and go. So that's what a harp guitar sounds like, more or less. And thank you very much. If you want to come visit it, you can play.